Okay, technical difficulty, but I'm back. Hi, happy Friday, you guys. It's another edition of You Need to Hear This. Today, my guest is Meredith Watkins. She's an extraordinary woman from Southern California who has an extraordinary story. And today she's going to be talking about story. Hi, Heather. She's going to be talking about story and why story matters. So I'm really excited for her to hop on. She has just like a really powerful story that anybody would relate to. She is an exceptional writer, but she's also an author coach and helps people form and craft their story. So if you have ever thought about being an author, or even just for the sake of writing your story down on paper for whatever purpose, like, she would be an exceptional resource for you. So she should be coming on pretty quickly. Hopefully you'll have some good questions for her, and she'll be able to address anything that you'd like to know. This is like always the awkward part where you're waiting for someone to like add me. So I'll text her on my computer, just make sure she knows we're ready. How is everyone today? Do you have Big Friday plans? Oh, you're here, yay. Big Friday plans to hang out in your house, like me. Okay, just ask to join, Mare, and we'll be ready to go. Good morning. Hello, welcome. We're just waiting for Meredith to join our chat. Hi, guys. Give us 1 second. And here we go. Okay. Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Mare.
Hey.
How are you?
Good.
Good. It's good to see you. Are you like business on top, party on the bottom?
I have jeans on, to be honest, but no shoes.
Right.
So do with that what you will.
Yeah, you do what you will. Okay, so Meredith is a really good friend of mine, and we've been friends for about 5 years. Maybe more, I don't even know. Yeah, more at this point. And we were introduced by my best friend because Teresa was writing a book, and you were her editor. Is that right?
Yeah, I contacted her. I kind of Instagram stalked her.
Yeah.
Talking about writing a book, and she was kind of stuck and was like, I think I need help with my book proposal. So I messaged her and I'm like, I can help you with that if you want. And so, so we just started connecting, and I started helping her with her book. And then we just became friends, and I think she was texting you and me like the same thing. And so she's like, enough of this. And she put us all in the same thread.
Totally. It's so funny. Like, think about our life before we had text threads, like our neighborhood text thread, our best friend. Yeah. So Mare, will you just let us know a little bit about you and what you do and why, you are the expert in what you are. And you are an expert. You will say, no, I'm not, but you are brilliant. So tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you. It's the kind of thing where when you do something for so long, it's just like, oh yeah, it's just what you know, and you forgot not everybody else knows the same thing. So I think that's where that comes from. I started out my career in publishing. I worked in magazines for a long time, and I worked in book publishing. I've done a lot of online stuff, of course, in the last decade or so, because that's where a lot of content lives these days, is online. And in the midst of all of that, my undergraduate degree was in psychology. And so I kind of had sidelined that a little bit, and I went back, got my master's. So then in the middle of working in magazines, I got my master's in psychology and got licensed as a marriage and family therapist. So I started doing some of that work, and then I got certified as a holistic health coach at the health school that we both went to, and kind of try to marry those things a little bit. And but through it all, I was always writing, editing, working with people, just kind of on the side. And so then I circled back around and have really been doing freelance editing, writing, and now author coaching for several years now.
Yeah.
So just professionally, that's kind of the trajectory. But the other backgrounds of psychology and holistic wellness, that kind of directed the kind of work that I did. So I've done a lot of work on one of the books I worked on, the first books I worked on was a holistic wellness book about conceiving after the age of 30 naturally. Mm-hmm. So, and then just a lot of like behavioral health stuff, mental wellness, that kind of thing.
Right,
so.
right. And I would say you are my like guru of all things, and parenting, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. You are like a Jill of all trades, for sure. So I'm really excited for those of you watching, because I think this is going to resonate with you. So we are talking about today story and why it matters, and like how it affects our lives and how our stories affect others. And one thing, like in the business that I am in, when somebody decides to join my team, and they're like, I don't know, like I'm a little afraid to put myself out there on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, and I'm a little afraid to, like make my story known. I'd rather just like keep it about like Beauty Counter. And I'll say, you can do that. That's fine. You actually don't even need social media to run a business. Mm-hmm. And many people would probably disagree, but like, you could still do it, like boots on the ground. But story is really, really important. And it's like the cornerstone of everything. Like we don't have, like just even the relationship that we have with brands, the fact that we call it tampons and not, or Tampax instead of tampons, or,
right.
Think of, Kleenex instead of tissue. Like we have these relationships with brands that we've had all of our lives, and because there's a story that they've told over the course of our lives that we've connected with. And so to not tell a story, you're missing out on so much, because, and forget like whatever the widget is that you're selling. It's so ironic to me that, we kind of complain that social media has kept us away. Now we're weird. We don't know how to like relate to people anymore in public, but social media is like kind of kept us away from people. Yet everyone's holding their phone trying to connect with people, because people haven't changed. They're desperate for connection. So when you share your story, whatever that is, it has power beyond, I think, what most people recognize. So I wanted to ask you, like, first and foremost, why does story matter?
It's how we're made, right? It's just how humans work. If you think about, like, I was thinking about this beforehand, because we've been talking about what we wanted to talk about here. When you're in school and you have a teacher just laying out like a list of facts, or let's say history, right? On this date, this happened. This date, this happened. Your eyes glaze over. You're like, oh my God, when are we done? Can we get out of here?
Right.
But as soon as they show a movie, let's say, or just tell a story about that same thing, all of a sudden you kind of perk up and you're like, oh, that's interesting, right? Because it's a story. That's something you can relate to, like just facts and dates and statistics, while they may be important, they're not particularly interesting. Like they don't light up that recognition part of our brain. Whereas stories we live every day, and we're always telling stories in our minds about ourselves and others and our life, and assigning meaning to everything. Yes. And so when we hear a story, that's that kind of connection, like that recognition, like, oh, I get that. That makes sense to me. And then we're just wired to connect more easily that way through story. I mean, for people who have, are part of a faith tradition, like I just think of in the Bible, anytime Jesus wanted to get a point across, he told a story. He wasn't like, you do this, you do that. Yeah. He told a story because he understood that's how people understand things. That's how they grasp things. That's how it means something, and it sticks with them too. You always remember stories. You're always like, oh my gosh, I gotta tell you this amazing story about blah blah blah. And that's fun. That's interesting. That's what we do around the table. That's what we do just when we're together. When we were together with other people. It's that, and that is it. Ensures and strengthens those connection bonds. And it's how we recognize each other in ourselves, I think. Sorry.
And you talk about faith tradition, like I think about this all the time, and it somehow this statement works in everything. Like, there's nothing new under the sun. Nothing. So like, none of us have original ideas. That I think all the original ideas in the world are gone. Like, they're just taking an idea, synthesizing it and making it better, putting your own spin on it. So I think that I've totally lost my train of thought. I was gonna say, telling story is the most ancient tradition in every culture, like every culture. So it's funny how things kind of ebb and flow. They come back in and out of fashion, but like, telling story is literally how traditions have been passed. And I think it's because we could go on a total tangent, especially you, because we're like a holistic, you are a holistic guru, but thinking about like the conversation about modern births in hospitals, and why our generation of mothers don't many of them didn't breastfeed. Like my mom was told in the hospital, no, why would you do that? You give your baby formula, which, no judgment, people do whatever they want. But like, there was a moment in history that when a story was told and we stopped as women telling stories of birth and how we do this, it changed. And then the commercialization of motherhood and conception sort of changed the way we do things. We forget that motherhood has been passed down from generation to generation to generation. Right. My mom didn't tell me about giving birth. Right. Didn't know anything. In fact, she was like, get those drugs, girl. And just because that's what she did. She's like, I don't know. So I think the whole point being is like, nothing is new. Like, we have to continue to tell our stories, because that's how we learn from generation to generation. So my first question, or my next question for you is, we've been talking a lot. You and I, just so everyone knows, Meredith is my ally. Like, and what I mean is, she is someone, we talk a lot about race. We talk a lot about really hard conversations. And I think it's a gift and a privilege if you can have someone in your life that has a different story than you, that may look different than you, that has, just a different life than you. And you can have a safe relationship with them where you can ask them any question. And, it's just safe. Like, there's no judgment. You don't have to disclaim it. Like, and so Meredith is like my person that I feel like I learned so much. She's like my little nest egg of like safeness. And there's just this full bank of, we've just poured into each other for so many years now that, like, I don't know, nothing's going to break us. And so, so I think everyone needs to have that. And when I say she's my ally, some of you will understand what that means as a woman of color. When a white woman, or a woman who doesn't identify as a woman of color, is like, I am here for you. I will do the work to learn myself. I will not make you my teacher. But we do have a relationship where I can safely ask you things and we can grow together. She's taught me so much. I've learned so much from her, and hopefully vice versa. So, we were talking about the things that have been happening, the couple of shootings that happened like about 2 months ago for two individuals who were African American, and we're talking about how we may not all agree in this climate right now, like this political climate. We may not all have the same perspectives, but when you invite me in, or I invite you into my life, and you share your story with me, like, how dare I not consider your walk in life? Like story invites you in, and there's a responsibility that happens. So can you, like, I try to set that up. Can you talk about that for me?
Yeah. I mean, thank you for saying all those things. I feel the same way about you. And this has been such a meaningful relationship to me because I'm an Enneagram 1, if that means anything to anybody. And that means I like go deep quick. And so like those kind of conversations are really lifeblood to me and very meaningful to me. I think that in the vein of storytelling, it's so powerful to tell your story because, let's say, from a white perspective, a lot of people don't fully grasp or understand the impact of what people of color can live with until they hear a story, like, you know, like something that affects them. And then they're like, oh, they might hear rhetoric that means nothing to them, sadly, you know, for whatever reason. But they hear your story and all of a sudden their hearts and their minds start to change and shift. And because you know, invited them into your story, first they're like, that's opening their eyes, hopefully, I would hope. Not all the time, but you can't control other people's actions and how they respond.
Right.
But I think it is probably the only path to meaningful change is to share stories about life, about what's going on, about these issues, because I think that's the only thing that really connects. Again, it like, oh, how would I feel if, you know, I was in that same circumstance or my child was or whatever. And so then when we hear somebody's story, you're starting to change, it's like, then you have a choice. What do you do with it, right? And we're talking about that responsibility. Some people are like, oh, I don't know, that seems messy and scary, or I don't know what to say, I don't have the words, etc., and they don't do anything. But then the other choice, obviously, is to say, look, I'm figuring this out too as I go, but we got to do better. Like, it's not acceptable to me for my friend to live like, you know, go through these things and feel these things.
Right.
And for, well, any human, in my opinion, to go through those things. So like, what can I do in my small way, in my circle of influence, you know, just even speaking up and saying, this isn't okay, by the way. Maybe you haven't noticed, maybe you didn't know, maybe let me share this story, maybe that will connect with you. But also, like, some things just aren't okay, and we need to use our voices to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you, as people are watching going, well, okay, I don't know if I want to write a book, or like, why is my story important? Like, why should I work on crafting my story? What should I do with it? Like, what would you say to someone who's like, so like, how is this important or, you know, relevant to me?
Right. And I mean, not everybody wants to write a book, although I will say most people I meet, when they find out I'm an editor, they're like, I've always wanted to write a book. It's a very common thing that most people feel like they've got a story to tell. If nothing else, let's not call it a book even. They have a story to tell. And that can come out in a lot of ways. Of course, books are a beautiful place to put it all and for, you know, to give to other people so that they can receive your story. But I think, and this is like this, the therapist in me that tends to, again, go a lot deeper, is people know that their lives, they want to know that their lives matter, right? And that their story matters. They may have doubts about, is the story worth telling? Like you said, there's nothing new under the sun. Who cares? They don't value their own story or their own experience necessarily as much as it deserves to be valued. And then also they may not trust their voice, you know, trust themselves to, like, if something bad happened or something hard happened in their life, somebody else was like, oh, wasn't that bad? Or, you know, they, sorry, I have a little tickle on my throat. downplay it. And so then the person doesn't trust themselves. They're like, oh, well, maybe this wasn't a big deal. Maybe it's not worth sharing. Maybe it didn't happen the way I thought it did. Right. Kind of like that gaslighting.
Yes.
And so I think like there's a lot of healing work that can come through actually just pursuing your own story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can kind of like work through, yeah, my story does have value just because it's mine.
Yeah.
That's full stop.
Yeah.
And I did remember it right. And my voice does matter. And I can trust myself to know that like how I felt and how I experienced it, that was real. And that was honestly my experience. And I can trust that.
Yeah.
And so just even the process of going through that and then writing it down, even if it's just for yourself, that can be a huge healing process.
Absolutely.
And is for a lot of people. I mean, it's a form of actual therapy.
Absolutely. Yes. Right.
You know, is writing your story. I've done that when I worked in an eating disorder treatment center. We did that. I did that one-on-one with, private practice clients. Writing out your story is just healing in and of itself. And then determining what meaning do I want to assign to this? And what does this mean for me moving forward? And the value of sharing that is that you're not the only one who went through the same thing.
Yeah.
Everybody lives like kind of in their own little silos thinking that I'm the only one who had this experience. I'm the only one who went through this. So, nobody else cares. They're not going to want to hear about it.
Right.
But that's not true.
That's right.
Tons of people have had your same experience.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go through the process of sorting it all out and writing it down and kind of like, creating that nice flow of your story and whatever it is, whatever meaning you want to assign to it. And then you share it with somebody else. They're like, thank goodness you said that out loud.
Yeah.
Right. It's that me too.
Absolutely.
You're like, yes. Oh, you too. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And that recognition, again, it comes back to connection. So it's incredibly powerful, if for no other reason, for your own well-being to think about and write down your story.
Right.
And having somebody to kind of help you, guide you through it is helpful too, because we're in our own heads and sometimes we just need that reflection outside of ourselves. Somebody to go, I'm hearing this, or I'm seeing this, or, don't silence this. This is good.
That's it. Don't silence. Yes. There's parts where you just want to silence, like, yes. You're taking us to church here.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things that I wanted to say. One, when I say like, there's nothing new under the sun, I really do think that like, it's very normalizing to me that like people have experienced this before, like right now we're in this COVID. Well, our grandparents haven't experienced this.
Yeah.
But somebody else has experienced, pandemics and even before, like, but in this very time, this is new. But I think, on the flip side, well, nothing is completely novel. When we tell our stories, we realize that, no, my story is individual. Like there is an individuality, like nobody has ever lived this story. That is what's unique, is no one's ever walked in this path. Mm-hmm. And when I share this path, even though I am the queen of invalidating my own story and being like, dumb, I shouldn't share that. That's stupid. People are going to think I'm whatever. When I do, somebody else goes, oh my, like you said, me too. Oh my gosh. Or like even my beauty counter made this commercial, this recruiting commercial about me of all humans on planet Earth. And it's very easy for me to be like, oh my God, there's so many more interesting people than me. And to downplay myself. But what makes me really grateful and proud is that people are like, okay, so your husband's in the Navy, my spouse is in the whatever, or it's not the same story, but it was my story. I have gotten 50 messages in the last day saying they told my story. And to me, that's like, that brings me to tears because I'm like, oh, so we might not be the same race. We may not have, acquired a family the same way. We may not come from the same place or even have the same perspective, but you have moved around the earth and you, following this person, you have given up a lot. People do not realize that you give up everything that you are. Like service members praise hands for them. But as the spouse and the children, like, you have given everything up of who you are for this person in service to your country and love for this person. So to be able to look at other people and go, I see you, girl, like, yes, or, you know, it hasn't been any men yet, but we have same stories, although we are not the same people. That's so powerful and beautiful.
Yes.
And I wanted to share like one thing that I really can't, like, I didn't even think I was going to share this, but you know, of course, so much of my story. And I have not talked about the stroke on this platform much. I think I voiced it last week in some post, and I had a friend reach out and go, you have never said the word. You've always said illness. And she was like, I just want to say, I'm proud of you for saying the word. For some reason, I have so much shame about the fact that somebody else caused a stroke in my body. Like, why am I ashamed? I didn't do it.
Right.
But this medical practitioner, I guess I could call, because I'm not even really ready to say it. It takes courage to tell your story. And here I am with a platform of humans who have chosen to like be in community with me that I don't even know. And I am still working up the courage to say what happened and how this happened, because for the last 5 years, it has been the dominant piece of my life. And it's, you know, like I had a baby and then had a stroke. So it's like my third baby. Like it's carried with me. And so you know this, but I wanted to share that when we went through the lawsuit, the lawyer was like, I need you to write down your story. And I remember like, I mean, the panic attacks and the tears and I was so afraid of doing it. But when I actually put, you know, pen to paper, I could feel something like just things jiggle, like things sort of like unlock, like this tightness sort of unlock. And that was a really big process for me because I was owning what happened. Like I was being like, I feel like here's the story and I'm always somewhere looking at it like it wasn't real, but then I fell into it and I was like, okay, I'm owning it. And the second thing that happened, I really can't believe I'm sharing this, is that so the lawsuit, you know, didn't go the way we want. I mean, we didn't get to go to court. We would have won, but there was a loophole for this practitioner, so it didn't matter. Like the outcome would have never mattered. It would have been devastating to go through it, knowing that the outcome was there was a awful loophole for this person. And so, anyways, I'll never forget. My lawyer said to me, I'm so sorry because you would have won. Like we know this. The evidence all points there. But I think the hardest thing I have to tell you is the only thing you can do is forgive him. And he's like, I know that's not what you typically will hear lawyers say, but I'm telling you, you will live in a prison of your own making if you don't forgive him. And so I heard it and you know, it was like hearing the voice of God at that moment. Like it was the last thing I wanted to hear. And it was the thing that like, I could have punched him in the face, like for saying it to me, but he said it, and I'm so glad he's brave. And what I did is I wrote this individual a letter, and it was a 6-page letter that I typed, single space, small font, and I mailed it to him, and I told him my story. And it wasn't a you piece of crap, like it wasn't like that. It was I need you to understand what the last 365 days of my life have been. And so I told him what it felt like in my body when I had a stroke. I told him what it felt like to sit in a hospital bed and tell my mother, I don't want to FaceTime with my baby. If I don't live, I don't ever want to see him again. I can't even believe I'm saying this, but anyways, I told him like what it felt like to have a place in marriage that was so dark I didn't know how to get through it. I told him every detail about therapy, my PTINR, my blood levels, every single detail. And at the end, and I said, and I release you. You did wrong. I hope you do better in the future, but you are not on my hook. I let you go in peace. And that's how I ended the letter. And I mean, I can't promise that it would be instantaneous for anybody, but instantaneously, I was free of anger. I've been angry at God. I've been angry at other things in the years since, but I am not angry at him. If I saw this person in the street, my heart might quicken and then it would soften immediately because I don't hold him anymore. So I want to like just really emphasize that. I mean, that was a situation where someone sort of made me write the story. And then I realized that writing your story, that was all for me. He might not have ever even read it. Maybe he threw it away, but
Yeah.
writing my story was like, this did happen to me.
Yeah.
And I was trying to make him see me. Instead, I saw myself. And it's so hard to put value to your own self and story. So anyways, all that is to say, like, you as my therapist and friend, my friendipist, I don't know what the word is, but was there walking me through that. So I think I want to say, like, Meredith is an asset to every one of you watching. And so I want to talk about, Mer, how you could, I want to wrap this up with how people can connect with you and what you do and what you're doing right now to help people. Because I have seen, oh, you're so welcome. I'm so grateful just that anyone would listen and be in community with me, because we have, well, and one side note, people will say, well, I never had a stroke, or I didn't have deployment, or I'm not a single parent, or whatever. So my story isn't as valuable. I'm always like, I'm going to stop you there. That's not true. It's not a competition of who had the worst story possible. We are all alive, and living on this earth is really hard. Your story matters. So you have validated me so much. So how can people work with you? In what capacity? How can they learn from you? And what are you doing right now to teach people about sharing and writing their story?
Thank you for sharing your story. And see, that was very vulnerable and brave of you. So I just want to validate that, what you just did, because I know that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And also doing that, like, if we don't even know the ripple effect that's going to have on whoever sees this, and that's powerful. Like, that's meaningful. That's the stuff of life. That's what matters in life, in my opinion. What I'm doing now is author coaching, really. And it's kind of a marriage of both, like, therapy in a way and writing, writing a book, just writing. A lot of what I was noticing that I was doing with people I was having consultations with, or was just, working with them on their book, it kind of felt like therapy, because I'm like, tell me what your book's about. And they start telling you, they're like, well, I'm not sure. And they, just start talking. And I would start to hear kind of like what was underneath it. And it seemed like what a bigger issue that was driving the story was. And so it's like, what I'm hearing is, you're telling me about these stories and they're interesting, but I think like the real message that you want to get across is this. And they'd be like, oh my gosh, yes, I didn't even realize it till you said it, And so there just were a lot of like light bulb moments, aha moments that they were having. And I was like, okay, and it felt like I liked it because it feels meaningful to me to kind of like help reflect back to people what I see in them. And because I know that that's healing and helpful and just meaningful to them. So I've just been doing it one-on-one, but I thought, the group experience, like group coaching, is so valuable in the same sense that like group therapy is valuable.
Yeah.
Because you're coming at it from your different walks of life, of course. And you all have a common goal, something that you're all working toward, or something that's meaningful. In this case, writing a book, writing whatever form it's going to take, but writing your story, writing something, even for business, I mean, frankly, but that comes from your own experience, right? Mm-hmm. People who have like in their businesses, they tried one way and it didn't work. So they invented something new that worked for them. And so they're sharing that life experience too. And so what I'm doing now specifically is a program that will start on June 1st. Okay. It's called From Concept to Completion, and it's a 90-day book writing boot camp. And it's really just me kind of doing weekly therapy sessions, author therapy sessions, with a group, and teaching you like one piece of like the step-by-step of writing a book, because most people are like, where do I start? I'm so overwhelmed. Sure. And I'm like, yeah, it does, like, just looking at the whole thing and not understanding the individual steps, it is daunting. But it's also fine once you break it down and then you realize, oh, I can do this. I can do step one and then step two. So I kind of walk people through that, but then also give them my feedback about, again, what I'm hearing, what their real message is, and what I think would resonate with other readers. That's another thing I always talk about with people I work with is, you know, we don't see ourselves in ourselves what is like most important, I think, or that other people would appreciate. So I'm like, you know what, readers would really like this. Like, this is valuable. They're going to relate to that. And so anyway, it's that process, but then also the group of other people chiming in and saying, being sympathetic, like being sensitive to also writing their stories. They're not going to stomp all over you, but they're going to be like, you know what about this? Did you consider this? Or I really liked this. Or even just getting that real-time feedback about, oh my gosh, yes, do that. That's what you need to focus on, that, you know, and having like that group validation.
Right.
What I have experienced in doing groups just as a participant is you just learn so much more, more quickly, and get where you're going faster. And then you have these relationships. It's like, you know, you're in school with these other people, and so you maintain those relationships inevitably with at least a couple of them. And so that's the program that I'm working on right now. I also work with people individually, and do, you know, I edit books for people and write for them, ghost write books. I've done that a few times, and other writing forms of writing, basically. But yeah, that's my big thing right now that I'm really excited about. And just bringing everybody together. It's time limited. It's like 90 days. So like you will know how, and depending on your time and what you can, you know, the effort that you can put in that time, you could have a book written. But if not, you'll be well on your way. You'll know how to get published. You'll know if you want to self-publish or traditionally publish, and what does that mean even, and what are the steps to take, if, you know, and like figuring out what's best for you right now and all of that. So it's really just kind of like the whole spectrum I break it down real simple. I like things to be simple and clear, easy to follow, easy to understand, because that's how I like to learn. And yeah, so that's the thing. And I also wanted to mention, today is the last day I'm offering a free coaching session if people join by today. So they will get an hour-long, just one-on-one consultation coaching session with me too.
Cool.
So
cool. I want in. I'm like, I want in. That's so cool. Meredith, that's exciting. So people, what's your Instagram handle?
It's meredith.watkins.
Okay.
And my website is meredithwatkins.com, and all the information's there. But yeah, in my Instagram handle right now, the link in the bio goes straight to the program.
Okay, great. And then, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to put this on my feed later today or tomorrow, and then I'm going to but I also put I'll put this in like another picture of you in my story, so people can just find you immediately. And then people can rewatch this. And thank you so much. I really do hope, you know, give Meredith a follow, reach out with any questions.
Yes,
Meredith is an expert in the field. So the fact that I know her, I feel really lucky, but the fact that you can have an opportunity to work with her, that you're doing this group coaching thing, is like, this is brilliant. I really think that people are going to grow and benefit from it so deeply. So thank you for just being you and for sharing your story with me time and time again and encouraging me in mine. Yeah, I'm just really grateful for you.
I am grateful for you.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys have a great day. Have a great Friday, and we'll see you soon. I never know how to stop it.